the Mariners' first baseman seems to have found a match made in heaven with his offseason program over at Driveline this winter. That's Ty France. He finished 2023 with a bit of a disappointing year. The number sat at 250 batting average with 12 home runs, 58 runs batted in, 703 OPS, 104 WRC plus, and just a half an F-WAR, 0.5. So, Ty took matters into his own hands. He followed his buddy J.P. Crawford to Driveline this winter. The results seem to be very, very positive. Early on, he's shown some of it in spring training. And what he can do in 2024 is kind of unknown. There's this balance of, okay, the last year and a half, Ty France has had his major struggles. So the second half of 22 after the injury and a lot of 2023. But there's also the side of, well, we saw it work for JP. Can this work for Ty France where he just pops off? And I certainly think there's a world where he can. In fact, if I had to pick one side or the other, I think he will bounce back. But we also know that simply going to Driveline doesn't just magically work for every single player. It depends on the player, and it depends on how they adjust everything they've learned to real games when the season starts. So there's a lot to unpack with Ty France, but I think the general consensus is obviously the Mariners need him to be better than he was in 23.
And there's a lot of spaces they need him to be better. I mean, you could say, yeah, he needs to be flat out better, but I mean, first of all, it's keeping his physique throughout the season. There's been some rave reports throughout camp of how in shape he is, how he feels a little bit faster, how he feels more athletic, and that he says he's open to playing both first and third base, and that he physically feels like he can do it opposed to last season where he only played first base. So there's that. There's the staying healthy, not getting hit by a pitch, not having like a ball go off his wrist and have him affect an entire half season of his. There's that. And then there's just sort of the redefined offensive approach that he had at Driveline. Is he going to hit the ball in the air a little bit more? Is it going to have a little bit more true power to it, opposed to more of his softer hitting previous, I'll say almost like previous life in that aspect in previous seasons in 23 and 22 and 21, more of a light hitter, singles, doubles, a few home runs mixed in there. But this season, could he have true first base power with a more redefined swing, a calmer bat path to the ball, a slimmer frame, more athletic, deeper in the box, farther off the plate? Does he feel like he can do that? Like, those are all the boxes I'm looking for Ty France to check off. And we talked about the leadership with Cal Raleigh. Ty France was on that list too, even though Ty France was worried if he was going to even get tendered a contract this year. Scott Service made it feel like Ty France was one of the guys on this infield who was a leader this year again, and on him to keep his mentality and the rest of the infield's mentality good as the season goes along.
What is a realistic expectation for Ty France this year? I was going to say, as you turned your light on, you were starting to get a little bit dark in there for those.
Just a little bit. Now I have this nice beam behind us, but that's fine. We'll make it work.
What do you think a realistic expectation is for Ty? I do think the power is going to go up, and they're talking about he's pulling the ball more. But what do we think?
Probably not 40, 25. I'd like to see 25.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just let's do a marginal jump. Let's not say Ty France is going to double his home run total. Now, if he does like a JP Crawford 30 points of WRC plus higher than his previous career high, then maybe we could talk about 40, because then we'd be in the 160 range. But right. I'm going to say a nice marginal improvement for Ty France would be back to his previous career high of a 129 WRC plus and 25 bombs.
Is it odd at all that, first off, I think that's about right. And now that he's pulling the ball more and seemingly hitting it with a little more authority, it does seem like a real possibility. Is it odd at all that when you look at Ty's peripherals from last year, when you pull up his Baseball Savant page, that his barrel rate and his hard hit rate were actually higher than they were in 21 and 22 when he was playing well, and he also whiffed less? I don't know. That's interesting.
I do think it's interesting. I do think the randomness of baseball probably plays a fact into that. And I think Ty could tell you that, just because it's not always how hard you hit the ball, it's also where you hit it. And Ty admitted his swing last year felt kind of off because he wasn't hitting the balls in the right spots. So even if he was technically hitting the ball harder, doesn't always mean it was better. So And the results spoke for itself. And just think of how many hits Ty France left on the table because he wasn't fast enough, didn't feel athletic enough last year. There's certainly enough to make that the case. So definitely an interesting point. But I feel like it's very hard to use past year's judgment to judge this year's Ty France. I feel like Ty France is going to be totally different. Mm-hmm. I just feel like his mentality has changed so much to how he approaches the game of baseball and how he approaches his hitting, his fielding, etc. All this stuff. It's no longer Ty France training with Ty France in the offseason. It's Ty France going and getting outside help to help him move along this offseason, right? And become a better player and have a different swing path and be in better shape. I mean, feeling like, he improved his diet, which I'm jealous of. I need to do that too, man. I've been so lazy this year. Not a good sign. But off the Ty France tree of just doing that and like the little things of improving yourself, I think have a chance to make a massive impact this year. And which is why I think it's kind of hard to use past years to judge this year's version of Ty.
And those third base rumors, man, those are interesting. Because I'll tell you what, not only if Ty's gonna be more athletic this year and he's hitting and feels like he's comfortable to move over to third base, not only does it give him more options, but Tyler Locklear, that dude's coming. Like, he's already mashing during spring training. He's hit at every level of the minor leagues. He is on a fast track on his way through the minors. And if the Mariners think that bat can help midseason, maybe defensively it gets a little interesting. But if you had the potential to have Ty France at third, Locklear at first, and Mitch Garver DHing, whoo! Yeah, that gets very interesting. Group. Yeah.
That's a pretty good group. How much third base do we think Ty's playing this year?
I think likely not much, and maybe they just end up being rumors. But truthfully, a lot of it probably depends on Locklear. Because if Locklear's hitting so well that they say his bat has to be in the lineup, well, you can't move Mitch Garver. He needs to be a DH. He catches. Not only does that take time from Cal, but that is how Garver's gotten injured a lot of his career, is catching. So I think it depends on what happens with Locklear. I don't think you'll see Ty France play much third base early in the year. You can see it later.
I would be kind of nervous with him over there. He has played in 2021 and 22. I've somehow forgotten the fact he played nearly 10 games worth of third base. He played 86 innings of third base in 2021 and 2022. He managed to have 4 defensive runs saved in those 86 innings. That's not very good. Notice that a full season's worth of innings is like 1,800 innings. So multiply -4 by 18.
Okay. I mean, so it was -4 defensive runs saved. I think at first you said 4.
Sorry, -4. Sorry, that's what I meant. -4, and his outs above average at first base has never been above 35th percentile in a full season. That does not lead me to believe right now that Ty France, his offense could outdo his defense at third, to be honest.
But
that's pretty bad.
What if Ty France is mashing, and Tyler Locklear is mashing, and Mitch Garver's mashing? For having like 5th percentile defense over there at third base and the effect it has on your pitcher, does that outweigh it? I don't think it does. I don't know.
I mean, seriously, think of how the Mariners infield is right now. You have questionable defenders at shortstop and second base. You have right now with Urias and Rojas a question mark at third when it comes to defense, and you would downgrade that defense by putting Ty France at third base. So then you would have, no matter how good your first base defense is, your pitching staff would have to deal with one of the worst defensive infields in baseball. Statistically, that's what it says. I would be a little nervous with that.
I'll just say it again, though. If everybody's hitting, Locklear included, there has to be some solution, and that seems like the most likely one.
Mariners pitchers would not be happy. They'd love to see the runs. But when a ball gets put in play routinely on the infield, you expect it to be an out. And I guarantee you, it's not Gino over there at third anymore. It would be less likely to be routine. I'm just saying what the numbers say would not be pretty. Unless they blew me away and changed everything overnight.
I was going to say, if Ty's a completely new player at the plate, maybe somehow he's cleaned up his defense too over at third base. Or not even cleaned up, just gotten much better with it because he hasn't played over there that much. And he doesn't have to be great. if he was even just league average. Remember how bad Gino's defense was when he came over here, and they said if he can just be league average, then that's a win. What if Perry Hill can help Ty be league average over there eventually?
It would be a huge jump. A huge jump. But at least Gino was an infielder on the left side in a previous life. Ty France is not.
Oh, that is true. Well, he was a third baseman at one point. He played other positions, but
there's a reason he didn't come over to the Mariners as a third baseman.
No, he did come over as a third baseman.
He was a first. I think he was a first/second baseman.
I think he was all three. He played everything in the minors with the Padres. I think primarily in the minors with the Padres, Ty played third. But it would be a jump for him to get back to that. That being said, Tyler Locklear's not making the team out of camp. It's going to be a bit till he get called up anyway. So for now, obviously Ty France will be playing first base, and more than anything, I think we're pretty excited to see what he can look like in 2024 at the plate. So
I concur.